Welcome to Evolution Revolution. My name is Susan Allan, and I am thrilled to have you with us today. As you know, the purpose of our show is to introduce you to technology, systems, skills, tools that allow you to live a life that's more peaceful and more joyous. And that is with systems that really work, systems that have been proven and that are absolutely unique. And every one of our guests has something to offer that I know from my own experience makes a huge difference, a really huge difference. You know that I'm committed to living a life that's joyous and peaceful and successful. And of course, that's what I do every single day with my Heartspace system, teaching all of you how to communicate more peacefully, more lovingly, and with greater motivation so that all your relationships are successful. And you also have the choice of being in those relationships or having other relationships. We have to remember that. We have a lot of choices. Now, today's show is called Preparation for the Future. And I am so excited to be back with the really, truly extraordinary and joyous Mirabai Devi. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me back on the show. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yay! Welcome back to Santa Barbara.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes, so wonderful. So now you have met Mirabai Devi. You know that she is a channel of the divine feminine. And I'll tell you a little bit more about her. You know, she has some amazing healing experiences with clients. And today we're going to speak about what each of us can do to connect with the light, the divine light, more and more every day, and what Mirabai does to help us accomplish that and achieve that. And most of us know people who are living in joy no matter what the circumstances, because that's the key to it. You know, I'm living in peace and joy, and I've been able to transform my state irrespective of what life brings us. You know, it's always got something. And sometimes it's exactly what you asked for, and something, you know, sometimes a little bit different. So that is really the key to Mirabai's message for us today. And she's a conduit for the light and the divine feminine. Mirabai offers spiritual teaching, darshan, and light activation for people all over the world. And she just returned from an event, and she was in the presence of 100,000 people. Wow. Excuse me, just the thought of it is like overwhelming. And the Shakti, the life force is coming through me. Excuse me for the cough, and it has to be that, right? Can't be anything else. So tell us all about this. 100,000 people. I've seen the video, by the way. I've seen this now.
Well, first of all, it was nuts. I mean, you have 100,000 people in the crowd. It's like looking at an ocean of humanity, all the way up to this beautiful Krishna temple called the Lotus Temple. We were out in Spanish Fork, Utah at the Holy Festival of Colors. And they are celebrating by throwing colors up into the air, and luckily they were organic this time.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes, it is brilliant, because you're breathing them in.
I never heard of this.
Yes.
Wow.
And so the rainbow colors are being thrown in the air, and all these beings are celebrating, dancing, singing, celebrating. So doing the light transmission with this ecstatic crowd, and the receptivity to the light and to the music was, we had, of course, mantra-infused rock.
Sure.
Kirtan.
Sure.
And the light transmission going at the same time. And it was with Larissa Stowe and Shakti Tribe doing the music, the kirtan, the light transmission. And she's a World Award-winning musician, singer, artist. And the band is fabulous. And then the light transmission going through all those bodies, it was really an experience of unity consciousness, total oneness. I just love it. It expands me into the infinite.
It's just amazing. And you know, I didn't go to the Oneness Temple opening in India where they had 150,000 people, because I laughingly said, you know, I would go if these were people who understood crowd control like we do in America, you know, where they had people watching. Well, now I don't have to go to India for this. I can go to the Holy Festival next year.
Yes, come with us.
So exciting. Yes. I mean, this is so thrilling. Okay, so we know about the distinctions of mind, body, and spirit, mind, body, and soul. And this is clearly about lightening up, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because when you're open to the divine light and you raise your consciousness and your vibration, then you feel lighter. And so you're opening up your heart and you're opening up your energy field, but you're making yourself to become available to be the instrument of the divine. So this work that I'm teaching and sharing, this mission, is about moving from heaviness, sickness, darkness, negativity, suffering model into a model of joy and lightness of being.
It's fantastic. And I had heard years ago that the explanation of why disease disappears when we are infused with light is that we're operating above the level of the disease. That our own mind, body, and spirit combination somehow hasn't dropped down to the level of any of those horrendous terms, that mean a disease. Is that what the light does for us?
That's what the light does for us. Everything in the physical universe is made out of energy. The body is made out of energy. And so when you bring a high frequency of energy into the body through light transmission or working with the divine light or through high frequency sound, you automatically raise the molecular structure of the DNA. Now, the disease is held in the cells or in the tissue or in the organs of the body in a lower vibrational frequency. And when you raise the frequency of the cells and change the molecular structure, because everything is holding memory, usually negative memories, negative thoughts, negative consciousness, negative experiences. When you change that reality to a positive reality, it changes the energy, which changes the molecular structure, which basically transmutes, I don't want to say eliminates, but transmutes the disease into light. So everything is energy and consciousness. So when you look at the body, it is a mirror of our consciousness. It is a road map. So every disease has a meaning. And when you understand the meaning, then you look at the cause. And when you address the cause and change the cause, you automatically have symptoms that disappear and dissolve.
Thank you. And of course, the experience is far more remarkable than the words. And the words do really explain it. And so thank you.
Yes.
Now, tell them, because I've experienced your wonderful light transmissions, tell everyone about your light transmissions, because they're just thrilling. They're so delicious.
Well, giving light to 100,000 people this Saturday at the Holy Festival of Colors gave me new insight into my light transmissions. It helped me realize, because when you're working on one individual and they're experiencing a backache that goes away or an intestinal disorder that changes and turns into being a smooth inner condition, or you help them to manifest a relationship with a light transmission, then you're seeing the immediate result in an individual. But when you see the result in 100,000 people, and I had that experience at Lightning in a Bottle when I was the keynote speaker at Lightning in a Bottle, and we had 12,000 people in the audience, and we had people walking around the next day, thousands and thousands of people coming up to me saying, my back pain has gone away, my headache went away, my heartbreak dissolved. I felt energy when I was exhausted. What did you do? What are you doing? And the reality is the light transmission is when we are communicating with the divine light, which is what I call God, the divine light, and asking the divine light to work on the individual or the group to transmute the negativity into positive energy, which basically turns every negative condition or every negative influence into a positive condition. Or
like this, literally,
just like that, yes. Thank you.
Fantastic, yeah. And you have such just a wonderful, joyous view, worldview, that you even consider illness and other challenges as opportunities. I mean, I think you have a term for it. Tell us more about that.
A blessing. Everything that happens to you is a blessing. If everything comes from the light, the divine, then everything comes from God. Everything is a positive, ultimately, God in disguise. Even if it's negative, like a disease or a car accident or a death in the family or a divorce or losing a child, these incredibly traumatic human experiences, which for all of us in human form are devastating, utterly devastating. And we need to deal with the problem on the level of the solution. You can't deal with the problem on the level of the problem. You have to deal with the problem on the level of the solution. And that means we look at the solution as a higher level. So if you just look at it as, oh, this is such a terrible thing, there's nothing we can do about it, because that's typically what the medical profession will tell you. They'll say, there's nothing that can be done for this. But in spiritual healing, when you're working with the divine, then you're working with the miraculous. You're working with the law of miracles, where everything and anything is possible. So we go to the divine with the condition and bring the divine into the light, into the condition, and automatically there is nothing that the light cannot do, because the light always works. The divine always works, even if you don't see the immediate result tangibly or physically, although very often and most times you do. Having the trust and the faith that eventually it will manifest, and it always does, and sometimes not in the form that you would imagine.
We've learned that, right? That the wonderful thing that we pray for may not look exactly as we expected, but it will arrive, right?
Better not to have any expectations, and you won't have any disappointments. We can't control the divine. Our ego nature as humans, we want to control everything, but we cannot control the divine. We have to allow, have faith and trust. We put in our prayers and know that our prayers will always be answered.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre. I mean, in my own life, just 2-3 weeks ago, I received a phone call out of the clear blue sky, and my former husband, in that horrible, life-threatening divorce, is now in big, big trouble, and I had nothing to do with it. I haven't even thought of him in more than 10 years. And then suddenly, something's, turned around. I thought, I probably sent this request to God about 16 years ago. You take care of him, God, because I can. And so now here we are 16 years later. There's a group of about 40 people who have made it their life's purpose to ruin his life and his career.
Oh, my goodness.
He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. But it's hilarious, because I was like, I'm sorry, who are you talking about? Your former husband, Susan. Oh, him. Oh, okay.
It's the principle of karma. What you give out, you get back. And that's why we want to do good. We want to do good and be positive, because we get back tenfold positivity and goodness towards us in ways we cannot even imagine. We don't do it just because we want to score points and go to heaven. We do it because it actually creates heaven on earth in our lives, in the now moment.
Yes, it's just so amazing, this journey that we're each on from the moment of birth, right? And you were speaking to me about the journey of illness. And I think people would really appreciate hearing this. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes. Basically, it's just like we look at water and then steam and then ice. We start with thought. We have negative thoughts and negative belief systems that are not necessarily our own thought forms or our own belief systems, but they're being passed down to us through our family and our lineages, thought forms and belief systems, because we are the fruit of our lineage. We are the product of our lineage. And so those belief systems are passed down through our genetics, through our DNA, and we're manifesting them through us into our children. And that's why our children and our children's children play out our conditions, our beliefs. And that's why what we role model, how we are, how we act, is so important in the presence of our youth and in the presence of our children. We don't see that in our society today, and yet it's so important. So when we have absorbed those negative thoughts and belief systems and patterns and burdens, taking on the burdens of our parents and our loved family members, our beloved family members, we become bogged down or weighted down. Or if we just simply don't clear out conflicts from old relationships and we don't deal with our issues, which many people run from their issues, because in our culture, we don't want to feel pain. So we run and suppress. They bury and burrow into the body those thought forms and belief systems, old, unhealed, unresolved conflicts, and they turn from thought to solid mass, which is ice. If you imagine water turning into, which is basically the ice cube, is a very vivid image, right? If you imagine the ice cube, that's the solidified water. That's the thought form. It's still a thought. It's still a belief system. It's still energy. It's still water. But it's manifested into an ice cube. And those ice cubes are all over the body. And we need light to melt the ice. We need the light of the divine. We need the grace of the divine prayer. When we bring in forgiveness, compassion, prayer, taking responsibility for what we have created, and then cleansing it in ourselves as well as in our family members, then we can melt the ice and turn it back into water, and then start dealing with it before it even turns into ice in the future. Preventative medicine, preventative practices. And that's why we want to be on a spiritual path and take 100% responsibility for our co-creation with the divine light, because we are responsible. If it's our families, we're still responsible. If it's our own creation in any of our lifetimes, we're still responsible. And that's why we need to clean up our acts and do better, and watch our thoughts and watch how we manifest what we say.
Which that's all I do 7 days a week, is work with people to have them clean up what they're saying so that they don't create more problems for themselves.
Good thing.
Now, when we talk about divine love, you know, for me, my very first experience of divine love was a near-death experience. So I was 25, and when I went into the tunnel, I experienced something I had never experienced before, which was love. Pure love, pure light, all at the same time. As we talk about people letting in the divine light or having you connect them with the divine light or divine love, it's tricky if, like me, they had never really experienced it. So how do you speak to them about something they don't even know exists?
The mind of humans. How do you address the mind of humans? The mind and the ego become not my business. As a spiritual teacher, I'm there to help somebody to feel and experience. I'm not there to help the mind experience something that it doesn't understand. By giving people the direct experience through the transmission of divine light, through speaking a forgiveness prayer in silence, through opening somebody's heart chakra magically, through using the divine light and grace, automatically, no matter how much of an unbeliever you are, no matter how dense you are, you're going to experience, I felt something. Wait a minute. I felt that. I felt light. I felt happy. I felt love. I felt love. And that is unusual. And it's only through direct experience can you know it. So my job is to give people direct experiences. I'm not so much interested in the intellectual side of spirituality. My work is entirely experiential. And that is to take people into knowing it, so that once they know it, they will believe it. Because even if you don't believe it, it'll work on you. It's irrelevant.
Thank you. And so in order for them to experience divine love and to divine light, they just have to either have a light transmission with you or be in your presence. And then over time, after they experience this, then they begin to get what is compassion, what is kindness, what is love, and they're evolving. Is that correct? Is that what you mean?
Well, they can experience it through getting a light transmission with me, or they can experience it through praying directly to the divine and exposing themselves as much as possible to nature. Nature, looking at a beautiful rose and smelling it, or looking at a gorgeous sunset, or really appreciating, learning to appreciate looking into the eyes of your beloved, whether your beloved is your soulmate or your child or your parent, or whether it's sitting and looking into the ocean and meditating, or into a river and training oneself to connect to the divine through nature. If you can't have access to a spiritual teacher, not everybody does have access, although in these modern times with the internet, now we do.
And telephones.
And telephones.
Yes.
It's absolutely accessible. It's available to everybody, anywhere in the world, as long as you have any form of modern technology. That's why we do the teleconferences every week. And so in addition to that, you can have a direct experience of divine love. You can have a direct experience of the divine light, which automatically opens the heart and helps you experience there's something greater than myself. My small self, my own misery, my own pain is not the be-all and end-all of everything. And that when I open my heart, I start to feel what would it be like to step into his or her moccasins and feel his or her pain. That opens your heart to compassion. And when it opens your heart to compassion, then loving kindness follows. After loving kindness comes service. We want to serve when you recognize that everyone is you. Everyone is your greater self when you step out of the small individuated ego that's focused on me, me, me.
Now, it's an interesting dynamic of wanting to serve, recognizing that everyone is me, and then also making certain safe choices. Because certain choices that many of us have made in the past, and certainly I'm speaking about myself here, didn't consider enough practicality and didn't consider enough of avoiding real intense difficulties that I wasn't aware of because I was thinking only about serving or only about making life better, you know, on the planet, and not about making sure I was taking care of myself as well. And I get a lot of calls from people who have the same confusion that I used to have. So talk about that if you would.
It's not this or that. It's both. It's this and that. In our culture, we need to learn to become multitaskers. Multidimensional multitaskers.
Lovely.
Take care of others, but take care of you. If you're taking care of others, it's not to your own detriment. If you give, but your own cup is not overflowing, you become resentful. And you resent the very person you're giving to. And in the end, what good is all the giving you've given when you end up giving them resentment? Because they're going to feel that. All they're going to remember is the resentment, not the gratitude that came before the resentment, and not the good relationship you had before it became funky. So let your own cup overflow, fill the chalice, nourish yourself, learn how to receive and fulfill your own needs, while at the same time you can get good at that while learning to give to others simultaneously. And that's expanding out of this very narrow, limited way of thinking, which we have when we're functioning from the conditioning of our family and our lineage. Because that's our culture. Women get thyroid diseases, hypothyroidism, and all those kinds of conditions come from not taking good care of ourselves, not taking time for ourselves, especially in women, because it's focused on the husband, it's focused on the children, and not focused on ourselves. That's a cultural belief system. That's not how it is in reality. You can argue with me and say, but how can there be enough time for everything? But the reality is, you can be impeccable at learning to open and just allow the divine to let it go out and in at the same time. Receive it all, give it all. Why limit it?
And I love what you've just said about the overflowing cup, the overflowing chalice, because that's such a beautiful image for people who are very kind and very generous and caring and supportive and all that, to begin to understand that they've got to allow it to bubble up from their own wellspring. And then it's going to be able to, give the irrigation to the farming, but it has to come up from within them first.
I like the image of the Divine Mother holding the child. And the Divine Mother saying to the child, what do you need? Whatever you need, whatever you want. And then the child being able to actually list its needs and wants. That's a meditation that I do, guided visualization. And do that every day. If you're learning to practice, imagine yourself in the arms of the Divine Mother, and you're the child, and you say every day what it is that you need to the Divine Mother in your visualization until you get good at saying it to yourself. And then you can ask for what you need. And then you give it to yourself in systematic steps. By stopping and listening to your inner guidance. Am I fulfilling my own inner needs? Is my own cup overflowing? And then you're connected because you become your own best friend, and that's self-love.
Wow. And now I didn't ask you before, but could you lead us in a brief meditation on that? I think that's extraordinary for everyone.
Right now?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I would really love to experience that.
Okay. It's very simple.
I'll close my eyes, but you just tell me when you're done so I can open my eyes since
okay.
since we're on TV.
Okay, so visualize yourself with your eyes closed, and in your mind's eye, imagine that you could travel down in a minute form into your heart chakra, and visualize your heart chakra as a beautiful rose blossom or lotus blossom. And in the center of that beautiful blossom, emanating the sweet fragrance of rose, appears a form of the Divine Mother, whichever form of the Divine Mother you most relate to. Could be Mother Mary, any form. And imagine yourself as a young child. What did you look like? What did you feel like? And imagine the moment when you felt unloved or unseen or invisible, craving the parents' attention, feeling as if you are unable to receive it, feeling small and disconnected. We can all remember those moments, sometimes greater, sometimes lesser moments of our childhood. And visualize yourself being squeezed or hugged in the arms of the Divine Mother, held so close against her heart that you can hear her heart beating. The Divine is our most intimate relationship. And the Divine Mother looks deep into the eyes of you as a child and says, what do you need? What do you want to feel fully fulfilled? Is there anything? And then take a moment now and tune into yourself and notice what it is that you're needing right now in your life, that you're wanting right now in your life, that you haven't been able to give to yourself, that has been difficult or challenging to reach out for and ask for or manifest. And go ahead and ask her for that now in the silence of your own heart. And after that, she will ask you, is there anything else that you need or want to feel completely fulfilled? And then feel the child just melting, losing all of her separation or his separation. Feel yourself completely feeling for the first time open to receiving love from the universe in the form of abundance, pouring into you whatever you need, whatever you want. The universe is fulfilling that through this magical form of the Divine Mother, the wish-fulfilling Mother. And feel your child feeling safe, loved, connected, seen, honored, respected, remembered, included. And just breathe all of that love into yourself, feeling the tension dissolving in your body, feeling the separation dissolving into oneness, and allow yourself to feel what love feels like when it comes in from the Divine in such a pure form, sweetness of love, like nectar, bliss. You can taste it in your mouth. It's so sweet, this love, almost overwhelming, the immensity of this love. And when you're ready, you can thank the Divine Mother for giving you everything that you have wanted and asked for, feeling your heart fully wide open. Allow yourself to gradually allow yourself to come back from that minute form, traveling out of your heart chakra and into the full size of your body now as your adult self. In the present moment as who you are, feeling the love still manifest fully within you and around you, and feeling her presence and her grace nurturing you, protecting you, supporting you, and fulfilling you. as any true loving mother would choose to do for her child. And as you step into your adulthood, you step into your own divine masculine and divine feminine, embracing all of that into who you are. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes.
Thank you so much. That was just divine. Just divine. And we can watch and rewatch the show and have you lead us into that every single day.
And do it for longer.
Beautiful.
Thank you. It's so important because most people have never felt what it's like to receive love, divine love, unconditional love, as you said a few minutes ago. So to actually go in and experience it from the divine, it's so immediate, it's so direct.
And then for me, once I've experienced this, which happened, 1975, then each time it's that quick and that easy and more effortless to enter into that state again.
Yes.
So once we've had it that first time.
Once you've had it that first time, after you've practiced it for a period, maybe a long period for some people, sometimes shorter for others, you're able to go there instantly. You close your eyes, you're right there. You're in that love, and you dissolve in that love of the divine, which is yourself, of course, your greater self, your higher self, your true self.
And that really changed everything for me. So tell us, because you've just come from this amazing experience, tell us about one of the people that you've seen since you were last in Santa Barbara, and one really amazing experience that somebody had from the work that you did with them.
Okay, I will do, but first of all, I wanted to say that Neem Karoli Baba, who is a wonderful great saint, as you know, when he was describing Jesus, when they said, "Tell us about Jesus," he closed his eyes and he had tears just streaming down his cheeks. And he said, he lost himself in love. And I think of that when we meditate, just losing ourselves in love. Yes. It's such a beautiful image for all of us to be able to embrace that. Yes. So when I was working on, you want an individual example?
I think, we love those. Every time you come, we want to hear stories about, this. Yes.
Okay. So then I'm going to share about some experiences I had on the boat in Bimini. I was leading a dolphin swim with a group of individuals, and yes, you can do that. You can go to various places around the world and swim with dolphins, and they are magical creatures. And we were swimming with bottlenose and spinner dolphins. We had a group who came on retreat with myself and a friend of mine, and they were swimming with the dolphins, and I was working on them doing healings on the boat and light transmissions every day, and the forgiveness prayers and mantras. And I only found out about maybe 5 years later from the boss of the woman who was on the dolphin boat with me that had a brain tumor. She had a brain tumor. And God bless her for coming on this trip, because I remember her jumping off the boat and swimming with the dolphins. And even with a brain tumor in that kind of condition in the middle of the ocean. And we worked on her, throughout the week. And I found out years later that she was healed right after that trip of the brain tumor, that she came home free of it. Or shortly after, it just disappeared and dissolved.
That's what I like to hear. That's so important. I think for people to hear about this changes your experience of being alive. I honestly believe that. I know each time I hear about someone or someone that I've heard about, this just changes my understanding of life on the planet Earth.
And on the same boat, there was a woman who was deaf in one ear, and she was healed of deafness in her ear during that week, during a private healing session.
Wow.
And just recently in Santa Barbara, another woman was healed of deafness in her one ear, 100%.
And I was there
dissolved,
that night.
And you were there and got to hear the testimonial.
Yes.
And then in a public Boston darshan is when I hug each person individually and do a light transmission right here through the third eye point. And two sisters came up and prayed to me in silence. They prayed to God through me in silence for the healing of their brother, who had had a terrible accident. It's really awful. He had taken a chainsaw. He was a woodworker, and he was drinking. He was an alcoholic, and of course the chainsaw went out of control, flew out of control, and flew into his face. Well, let's put it this way. He ended up in the hospital in a coma, and he had not come out of the coma in 10 days. And the sisters were just devastated. The whole family were devastated. They did not know what to do. And he was obviously not there. And they came up during the light transmission darshan in Boston, and they asked for help for their brother and if a miracle could be performed. Literally, they came home from the darshan, walked into their house, and the telephone rang, and it was the nurse from the hospital with the brother on the phone to say that during the time the two sisters came up, the exact same minute that they came up and asked and the prayer was made for them, the brother spontaneously came out of the coma, sat up, he had been gone for 10 days, sat up and he said to the nurse, he said, "A miracle has happened." Those were the first words out of his mouth. "A miracle has happened." He said, "I don't have any pain.
Wow.
I'm back.
Wow.
And I feel wonderful."
Wow.
The sisters couldn't believe it. They were completely in shock. And very, very shortly after that, all of the injuries to his eye and his head healed up. And of course, he went back to his life and back to work and back to his family. And there's one more story, if I have time.
Please, yes.
That I'd love to
hear
share.
another one, sure.
I was doing healing teleconferences, which I do every week on the telephone, and I was working on a woman's a woman's sister who had major back problems. This is very dramatic.
Ooh.
She was driving after the healing light transmission and the prayers, the forgiveness prayers that were made for her and her life and her lineage. She was driving her car. Her car on the highway was hit. It flipped up into the air. It literally spun in the air, landed down on the ground on the street. At that point, no other cars hit it, thank God. Cracked her back. The car was almost crushed. She got taken out, and the cracking of her back completely healed all of her back injuries. And she was untouched and unscathed. That's one of the most dramatic stories I've had or heard. Unscathed. She came out untouched.
And we were just speaking about how we never really understand how the divine works. And all these things are, opportunities on the journey. And if this isn't the most extreme example, right?
I say that's God showing off.
That it certainly is. It certainly
The
is.
light is,
wow.
I say the light always works. The light is unbelievable. The things that happen to people and the way that it manifests, you can never tell how it's going to happen. It is so utterly miraculous. And I've literally heard thousands and thousands of stories like this from people that have come through.
Yes.
And every time I'm like a child. It awes me. I'm in absolute awe of the divine. And it's like, after that, how can you not believe? How can you not have faith when you've had an experience like that?
That's so interesting, because the next question that I wanted to ask you, which I will, is how people can learn to stay in the state. Because when you first had the experience, like I was 25 and I had a near-death experience, and yes, it had benefits, but I didn't live every minute of my life as if I had just had a near-death experience. Then I met Muktananda 3 years later. And that was another extraordinary experience. But I didn't immediately turn my life into that. And I was as, you watch me now, you listen to me now, you talk to me now, you would never realize that I required so much convincing. But I really did. I required a lot of years and a lot of convincing. So we know that depending on the state we're in, that's how long we hold the state of joy and bliss. And I'd love you to explain that, because I don't want people to have a million car accidents to really get that the divine exists. So please.
Like on the last show when I told you about the guy who had the torn meniscus and didn't believe.
Yes.
And had 4 healing sessions with me and said, I'm going to have the surgery anyway.
Yes.
And I said, well, if you need the surgery in order to believe, go have the surgery. And they cut open his knee and they said, you don't have a torn meniscus anymore. The scans originally said you do, but it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And
yes. And like, do you really want to go through all the suffering and all the expense and all the stress in order to do that? You know, like, please.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do they hold on? I mean, you can't hold on. You have to keep bringing more in. But how can you encourage that for people who are maybe today feeling very unhappy or very frightened or very angry? You know, people who have a real habit of entering into those states and not being able to, you know, get out of them fast.
First of all, I would say the one word, remember. Remember, remember. That's all you can do. When you're in the darkness, you're in it. You're in the desert. You don't remember. It's like even if you had great experiences of grace in your life or higher states of consciousness or miracles happen in the past, you're in the desert and nothing helps. And so in that moment, to be able to remember or be reminded is so important. And that's why we have mentorship programs. Mentorship, I mean, if anybody can enroll themselves in any form of spiritual mentorship program where they can have people in their life who are there to say, hey, shake out of it, snap out of it, wake up and do this or remember that. If you can't access your own guidance, you need other humans or a spiritual teacher or a mentor, somebody who can remind you, go take a walk, read this spiritual book, watch a spiritual movie, receive a light transmission, get a healing, go get a massage, get in the ocean, love yourself, whatever it is to, you know, this painful experience is only based on that life is a dream. And yes, that illusion of pain, pain dissolves and goes into the void. And then it comes out of the void and turns into pleasure. And then it goes back into the void and turns into pain again. You know, it's really, pain is the awakener. It's the message. It's the teacher. It's the gift. It's the blessing. And when we can have somebody there to say, hey, instead of complaining and looking at this as a negative thing, say, thank God for this wake-up call so that I can get closer to who I really am and be who I am, do what I came here to do, which is my divine mission, and remember the divine, which is love, and get back to the love and back to the joy, because it takes 1,000,000 times a day to wake up and remember. And so we need the impetus when we're not able to access it ourselves. Those of us that are spiritually aware or psychically aware can talk to our spirit guides, we can talk to our light beings that are around us, we can talk to the devas, the elementals, our spiritual teachers, our mentors. But those that are not connected at those stages of our lives where we feel alone, anybody in your life that you trust, if there's one person, ask them to be there to remind you on a daily basis. Start a meditation circle, start a prayer circle. Start a club of some kind that's spiritual where you can have other people there to pull you out of your darkness when you forget.
But please promise that that's an agreement you have, that during that circle, everyone has to show up with a commitment to be pulled out of any kind of darkness, rather than ending up with a circle of people complaining about the darkness or commenting about the darkness.
Help.
Please don't do that. I get a lot of those phone calls, so please don't do that.
The more you affirm it, the more you create it. Just like having a light transmission is like you can have 10 years of therapy and talk about the problem. Or you can have 30 seconds of the divine light move through your body. What problems? It dissolves the darkness. In the presence of the light, there is no darkness. Because what you say and what you affirm is what you create and what you attract. And we all know this. It's just practicing it and staying on top of it and remembering it's real, folks. It really does happen. You really are co-creating your own reality, and you really are stepping into a reality of joy instead of suffering. You have to be committed. So your friends are telling you, rephrase that. Let's try to say that in a more positive way. Let's say that in a more positive way.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And, you know, there's a moment where you're in the presence of a spiritual teacher and your heart breaks open. Or you're in the presence of the divine or the divine light or Jesus or whoever it is that is the face of God for you, and your heart breaks open. And I'm going to ask Mirabai to speak about this for a moment, because that's the moment. That's the no turning back moment for me. So Speak about how you lead someone into that experience.
Work directly on their heart and open the heart chakra to divine love. The heart is like an organism. It's a physical pump, and spiritually it's a chakra. It opens and closes just like a flower. It's a tight bud or it's in full bloom. When I work on somebody's heart with the light, can I do it right now?
Oh, yes.
Can I work on all of your hearts to open your hearts to divine love?
Don't have that many minutes.
Okay.
We have a total of 10 minutes left of the show.
Few seconds. Here we go. To open your hearts, all of you. That's all we needed. It's done.
Bliss, bliss. Next time I'll have to ask you to tell me when I can open my eyes and make sure I'm present enough to do it. Okay. Let's have you speak about divine purpose. You know, to me, until I found out what my purpose was, that's really all I cared about. I just really didn't care about anything else. I knew I had one, and I certainly didn't expect that a life-threatening divorce was going to show me my life's purpose. It's like, I didn't sign on for that, except that's how it happened. Because as you said earlier, we really don't know what the divine light or divine love or God has in store. So for people who are listening to the show, watching the show, and they haven't discovered their divine purpose yet, what do you say?
We were born with a crystal implanted in our hearts, encoded with our life purpose. I call it our dharma. It's a Sanskrit word, dharma. Each and every one of us has a divine purpose, a divine mission. For a mother, it may be raising that one great soul or that group of great souls into the world. For example, it could be the gift of music. I'm thinking about my mother, for example. Mm-hmm. Everyone in my family has a divine mission. Mm-hmm. My family is extraordinary, mm-hmm. and yet my mother not only brought this group of souls into the world to do global work with, mm-hmm. for humanity, but mm-hmm. also is a great musician and has the gift of music. Wonderful. And when we meditate or close our eyes and take a silent retreat at any stage of our lives, and we all need to do that at some point, and melt the veils of ego that are keeping us from listening to our inner voice, the more opportunities we have to go silent and listen, the more our divine mission will be revealed to us, because it has to bleed through and all around the ego. So the more we can get the ego out of the way, the more that it can manifest fully present into our lives. And I can tell you one thing that every human being has in common as a life mission or a life lesson, let's say, is to learn to love ourselves. Because we are embodiments of love, we are also here to remember that and to learn to love ourselves. So if loving yourself means being the greatest spiritual teacher, the greatest concert pianist, the greatest film actor, the simple, humble, whatever your job is that you do every day, but at home you have a soulmate relationship that you've lived incarnations to find each other, or that special child that's a genius, a prodigy that you're bringing into the world that will shine and help bring joy to the planet or to your family. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter specifically, because it's all equal and great.
And please also be a great secretary, a great taxi driver,
yes,
a great person who bags our groceries, you know, whatever it is, please have that joy of service, because there's no humble job. Each one of us makes a huge difference.
And the reality is that it doesn't really matter, because all of our souls are great. All of our souls are divine. We're all one being, manifestations of the one. And some have a very public mission, some have a very private mission. Some don't even get to really know what their life purpose is. But if we learn to love ourselves, we're completing and graduating a major lesson. So whatever the form is that you've chosen to burn through your karma and learn your lessons in this lifetime, it's perfect for you. And, may I add, do what you love as much as you're able to.
Yes.
Do whatever is your passion.
Yeah.
Whatever you love to do, because it's what's going to bring you the greatest joy. But know that we're all made equal in the likeness and image of God.
Thank you. And I think we have a few more minutes, yes, to talk about karma and choices, because I just really want to clarify something. When Mirabai says, do what you love to do, please don't believe that if you're doing what you love to do, then automatically all your bills are going to be paid. Please, because I really want to save you from that suffering. I get too many phone calls about that, and here's a way to just avoid that. Do what you love to do, and also find a way that may be the same and may be a different way to have the life that you want to have and take care of the practicalities. I know you're laughing, but you know this is a confusion that a lot of people who've been on a spiritual path can have, because nobody's said something as practical and factual and, to them.
And honestly, the only thing I can use is myself as an example. It was my dream to move to Kauai.
Yes.
And I spent 7 years focusing on moving to Kauai,
Yes.
on how I could manifest that.
Yes.
I prayed for it, I asked for it, I put it in my computer codes, my bank codes.
Yes, exactly.
I put it out in every single different avenue, and I realized my dream. And when I realized my dream, I realized that I can only do it for myself and be the example. Everybody has to do it for themselves and be the example.
Yes.
So yes, of course we need to pay bills and we need to earn money and we need to do mundane jobs for a period. And there comes a point also where if you are able to earn money at what you love to do and bring those two together into one, the divine will bless you in doing so if you're living your soul's purpose. If for a period of time you need to keep this job so you can do something else that you love to do at another time, it doesn't really matter. No. It's not going to block your evolution.
Apropos of that, I remember sitting at Guru Mai's ashram in upstate New York, and I was in the coffee shop, and I was having lunch with somebody. And at another table, I overheard a conversation. Tables were close together. And at tables surrounding, I heard bits and pieces of the conversations, which was so amazing to me, because all of these people were talking about a lifestyle that I didn't really understand, but that was identical. They all said something which I'm not recommending here, I'm just reporting it, that they would work for a period of time, and then they would go to be with their spiritual master and use up the money, and then they would go back and work for a time, and they would then spend time with their spiritual master. And, I just so wanted to run over to the tables, though, it wasn't my place to do it, and say, well, have you thought about a different way where you just keep the same career going, but you get time off? Because that's what I'm doing, guys. That's why I'm here. So it's about karma and choices. Yes. And maybe part of that was that I'm lucky enough to have had the karma to make an easier choice.
Yes.
We call it what it is.
Yes.
So talk to us in the few minutes we have left, 3 minutes total, about karma and choices, if you would.
Well, most of humanity feels like it doesn't have a choice because of our ego nature. We feel blocked. We feel like, how can I choose to do what I want to do, or to manifest my dreams, or to manifest my desires, or to ask the light for help when I'm stuck? When I'm stuck in this job, or I'm stuck in this relationship, or I'm in a low-level consciousness, mundane, worldly thing. And that's very common for most people. And so how do you shift out of that and realize that you have a choice? And how does your choice have power when your karma seems to be predetermined by your conditioning, your family, and your lineage? And so what happens is that there is a moment where your paths, it's almost like you're walking down a path and then there's two different paths that present themselves in front of you. Have you ever noticed that there's a choice point in your life when you can go down this path or you can go down that path? And it's almost like a parallel universe. When you go down the path that you've always gone down, which seems to be your predetermined, conditioned path, then it's a life of feeling blocked and suffering. But when you're given a choice point, that moment where you jump, jump off the cliff, and really just go for it, where you are somehow able to give yourself permission to feel like you are enough, like you are worthy of deserving to have what you've always wanted. And the how is going to show up if you trust it and allow the divine to show you. Of course, this is not just leaping into faith. There's science behind it.
Yeah.
You can do prayers to cleanse the lineage and the forgiveness prayers to cleanse the belief systems that are keeping you locked into, I'm not big enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough. All those things that, you know, the ego dictates, that Marianne Williamson talked about in Nelson Mandela's opening speech, you know, in South African Parliament when he became the president.
Yes.
I always go back to that speech because it so explains the nutshell of our ego nature. And when we can cleanse that.
And just remember that Marianne Williamson is running for political office in the state of California right this minute. So look at this incredible inspiration.
Absolutely beautiful, yes. And we want to support the light in all forms to bring the new consciousness into manifestation. So there's a wonderful example of someone who's doing it. And that's how we each need to look, not just the public figures like the celebrities who are in actors or on films or on stage that are doing it, but ourselves in our own life, that we can make that choice, take that leap through cleansing ourselves enough to release the negative belief so that we're free to choose and not be dictated by our past karmas.
Thank you, and forgive me because we have run out of time. That was just so thrilling, so thrilling. And I just want to let you know that if you're not already receiving Mirabai's announcements of these light transmissions, please go to her website and sign up. I am always thrilled, and I participate in as many as I can. And I just wish they weren't on Tuesdays, some of them, because that's when I'm always doing a show. And you absolutely want to stay tuned for the next time she appears. We'll show this video of the 100,000 people in Utah. And thank you to our team here, Jared, our director, and Tyler, our sound engineer, and everybody else at TV Santa Barbara. Please keep reading my column in Santa Barbara Family Life magazine, and you know you can still have a 1-hour free telephone session if you have any issues in communication and relationships. And you know I've been doing that now for like 16 years. Thank you so much.